On Wednesday, the 2nd of July, I conducted an interview with Huda Amori, co founder of Palestine Action. Now, we did that interview just hours before MPs began debating Home Secretary Yvette Cooper's order to prescribe Palestine Action as a terrorist organization. Since then, MPs have indeed ratified that order in the House of Commons, as have the Lords. That means that Palestine Action could become a prescribed terrorist organization early in the morning of Saturday this weekend. Now, that may not happen. Palestine Action has secured a hearing to appeal for interim relief. That means a pause to Yvette Cooper's order, giving them time to seek a judicial review to overturn it if possible. But if none of that happens, if the order does go ahead on Saturday and Palestine Action becomes a prescribed terrorist organization, this may be the very last time it's legal to air an interview like this one. And why do I say that? I say that because in this interview, I give Huda the time, the space to explain what it is that her organization is doing and why she's doing it. And doing that post prescription could easily be seen as a reckless act of speech on my part, on this organization's part, that might be seen by others to encourage support for Palestine Action. And that would be a breach of the Terrorism Act were Palestine Action prescribed. So watch this interview. You may never see another one quite like it. And I began by asking her how she was feeling ahead of the vote to prescribe the group.
Well, with the proposed prescription being voted on today in a few hours, to be honest, I think this whole past couple of weeks has been quite crazy and shocking to see how far the state will go in an attempt to stop us. I think there's a lot of uncertainty at this moment in time within Palestine Action and amongst the wider movement. But we're all adamant to do everything we can to fight this prescription and to stop it from taking effect.
Now, look, Palestine Action, allegedly does damage property. It's alleged to have even damaged two RAF refueling planes in Oxfordshire. Those are criminal acts if they're true. Why aren't they terrorist acts?
Well, I think if you call damage to property a terrorist act, then you completely are devaluing the life and value of Palestinians. And saying that this is terrorism means that you believe the property of an Israeli weapon or an Israeli weapons factory is worth more and is worth protecting more than the lives of those in Palestine who are subject to these weapons, to these war crimes being committed with these tools. And that's what we seek to do in Palestine Action, is break the tools that are used to commit genocide. And genocide is the terrorist acts being enacted here. And doing everything in our power to stop that is quite the opposite of terrorism. And I think it's quite it is quite telling of the society we're in when we're willing to value the property of that are used to enact war crimes over people's lives, and those who see it differently and value Palestinians are the ones deemed as terrorists.
Now, Palestine Action has taken part in a number or committed a number of these actions over the last 5 years, and they've increased in their frequency as Israel's assault on Gaza has since it began and since it's intensified to the point now that although we were calling it a genocide quite a long time ago, some in the mainstream media are even beginning to use that word. So you've brought a lot of attention to what's going on in Gaza. But would you regard your actions as having been successful in terms of shutting down the makers of weapons, or in terms of making it unprofitable or less profitable for people to make money off of the killing of Palestinians in Gaza?
Definitely. And I think that's why we've been targeted over the years increasingly. And that's why we're facing prescription, because we are effective in taking direct action. We have permanently shut down Israeli weapons factories. We have cost Elbit Systems, Israel's biggest weapons firm, who market their weapons as tested on Palestinians. We've cost them billions in lost contracts, and we've pressured companies to cut ties with Elbit. We have really made it very difficult for Israel's weapons trade to operate in Britain. And as a result of that, we have been targeted in intensifying ways in a bid to protect those foreign weapons manufacturers over the rights of British citizens who protest them.
So that's about private weapons manufacturers like Elbit Systems. But what about the Bryce Norton action? What was that about?
Yeah, so that was our first action on the British military base, and Palestine Action is very committed to being focused on the Israeli weapons industry. But with the genocide escalating in Gaza, and with the British involvement almost being hidden by the mainstream media, it was really important. And what that action did was bring out that the truth about what Britain's really involved in. And from Bryce Norton, flights are leaving almost daily to go to Akrotiri, a base in Cyprus. And from there, they're sending surveillance flights over Gaza, assisting the genocide, assisting the genocide happening there. But also, there are planes that fly from Bryce Norton to Akrotiri, which can carry soldiers and weapons and can refuel fighter jets. And we know that one of the planes that was targeted was used to assist the refueling of a fighter jet that was used to bomb Yemen in 2024.
I saw today Dropsite News has been reporting that Israeli planes may have been using RAF bases to refuel at various points over the last year or so as well. If this prescription goes ahead, if Palestine Action is prescribed, what will that mean for the group?
It means that I wouldn't be able to do an interview like this. It means I wouldn't be able to talk about direct action probably at all against the Israeli weapons industry, because that is what Palestine Action activity was about, and that's what will be prescribed. It means that all of those involved in any shape or form, whether you're a support team, doing research, doing media, would then be committing a terrorist offence, a serious terrorist offence. And it would mean that those who express support for Palestine Action or for the activities of Palestine Action, like shutting down Israeli weapons factories, would also potentially be committing an offence. And I think this actually has brought out a lot about how draconian these laws are. That, Britain, I think, is one of the only countries where expressing support, even recklessly, for a prescribed organisation is an offence. And it's a complete assault on everyone's right to free speech. And what it does is it leaves a vacuum where the only narrative you get is from the arms companies, from the British state, about their involvement in the genocide, while they tell us all that all you can do, and even that is punished, is protest on a Saturday for a couple of hours and cope with it. And that's what we're expected to do, just to stay in our lane. And it's about controlling dissent, controlling the population. And ultimately, we're working at opposite ends when the government is working to assist and be a part of the genocide, when we are working to stop it. So they are targeting us as a result.
I think what you say there about controlling the narrative is one of the most terrifying aspects of this potential prescription for me, because of course, as you say, if you're a supporter of Palestine Action and you vocally support the group in public after prescription, you could face prosecution under terrorism laws. And indeed, as journalists, we will be barred from, offering an analysis based on facts, which is a journalistic opinion about the group's activities. That would, if we thought positively of Palestine Action, we wouldn't be able to air that view, to publish it. We wouldn't be able to participate in shaping the narrative around the genocide in Gaza. And I wanted to ask you on the point about the public and what they will now no longer be able to say if they want to. Do you get the impression that your supporters in the public, so not your members, but just ordinary people who support you, do you think that they're going to sort of take that sitting down, or do you think people will break that law?
I expect people will break that law, and I don't think the government knows what they're doing at this moment in time, because there has been an outpouring of support, and we in Palestine Action are so grateful for all of the support that has come out in these past couple of weeks. People are outraged, and not just outraged for us, but outraged on the attack on their right to free speech. and on these draconian laws being used against a domestic protest group, I do expect that people will break it. And I think this could be a turning point. And I think they've misstepped by doing this. There's, from my memory, and these laws haven't been online for that long, there hasn't been an outpouring of support like this against prescription of a group. And we're seeing them lower the threshold of what can be considered terrorism. You have to hold the line at this point. It has to be challenged, because otherwise, who's going to be next on the list? What differentiates us from the other protest groups? So I think it's one of those moments in time where everyone has to stand up against it. And that can be done in different ways, but in order to protect everyone's rights.
Now, we've been kind of talking as though the prescription is definitely going to go ahead. Obviously, it's being debated. Well, by the time this interview goes out, it'll be being debated live at the time. And then tomorrow, Thursday, it looks like there's going to be a kind of rush debate in the Lords, in which case on Friday at midnight, it would become, you'd be prescribed in law. But you have a legal action coming up on Friday morning, and you're making an application for interim relief. So what is that? What does that mean? And you don't have to go into the details of your legal strategy, but roughly, what will your arguments be?
Normally, when groups are prescribed, the only avenue available to them is deprescription, which can take years, and you have to go through these appeals process. I think the key thing is that we are aware that there has been extensive consultation between the Home Secretary and Israel lobby groups. We Believe in Israel, Elbit Systems, the Israeli government, weapons manufacturers, etc., who have been calling for us to be prescribed, and she's following their requests at this moment in time. There was no consultation with human rights groups. There was no consultation with Palestine Action. And look, we're not ISIS, right? We've got a website, we've got an email address, and instead of actually contacting us, they put out these smear campaigns about foreign funding with no evidence, baseless accusations to try and create a political atmosphere where it's easier to prescribe us without an uproar. And I think they've massively failed at that. But Friday will be an opportunity to basically offer interim relief, which will stop the ban from taking effect. And we will proceed with a judicial review of the Home Secretary's decision to prescribe us on the basis that it was unlawful on several different grounds. But I think that the first step of that is stopping the order from taking effect. So if we are successful, we have 2 weeks until the next legal stage to officially apply for a judicial review. And if that is successful, then I imagine the interim relief will continue. If not, we will be prescribed by midnight. So it's really going to be down to the wire. And we are calling for people to come out to the Royal Courts of Justice from 10:30 a.m. On Friday.
And what about Parliament? I mean, you talked about smearing there. The Home Secretary has cleverly constructed the order so that it includes Palestine Action with two other groups who, to many people's minds, should be prescribed: neo-Nazis and white supremacists, both of them that have threatened violence to people. What are your hopes for a bloc in Parliament or in the House of Lords? Do you think MPs will be able to reflect on the implications of what a prescription would mean and rebel? And in the House of Lords, do you think that they might turn it over there?
The Home Secretary has obviously been quite crafty in trying to include groups like Maniac Murder Cult. I mean, it just seems like such a joke, to be honest, that they're kind of compare us to a group that would call themselves that. But it's a political move because MPs don't want to be known in 10 years' time as the one who didn't vote for prescription for the Maniac Murder Cult. And so they're trying to use these types of tricks to force MPs into either voting for it or abstaining. I believe there has been a 3-line whip imposed as well on MPs. So the whole thing is just completely anti-democratic. I would hope, and I think that we all should be quite strong on the fact that any MP who doesn't vote against this or abstains on this and claims to be on the side of the Palestinian people and claims to care about our rights as citizens should not be able to get away with that. It's a coward's move. You should be voting against this unequivocally. It's clear that you're voting against the prescription of Palestine Action, not the maniac murder cult, right? And so I'm not sure what to expect, but I think with the Labour having the majority and with these MPs being whipped, and the bill yesterday went through, it's tricky to see how it won't get through the Commons. I'm not sure what to expect with the Lords. Unfortunately, we can't put that much faith in our political system. If we did, we wouldn't even be in this position in the first place. We wouldn't have been arming Israel. We won't be complicit in the genocide. So we'll just have to see what happens and see what happens on Friday as well.
Right. Well, let's say, and obviously we hope it doesn't, not just because well, I personally really admire Palestine Action and support you, but also for the implications for free speech and direct action protest in this country. Let's hope it doesn't come to it. But if your group is prescribed, if Palestine Action is prescribed, you've posted, not you personally, but Palestine Action has posted online that they'll continue with their direct action. Is that the case? And if it is, why is it that your activists are so prepared to take on greater and greater risks?
Yeah, I would say that I can't say explicitly what Palestine Action will and won't do at this point in time. But what I will say is they can ban an organization, but they can't prescribe direct action as a tactic against the Israeli war machine. And what we have to look at is what's happening to the Palestinians day in and day out. This is the fight for a fight against genocide, a fight against a system that enables the Israeli war machine to operate in our towns and cities, and we have an opportunity to stop that. We have an opportunity to disrupt the Israeli weapons factories, and we will take that, even though the risks will become are already quite great. We have the people who were arrested for Brian Norton accused of it. 5 people are still in solitary confinement as we speak and have been since Thursday without charge. And we've seen several actions against RAF bases in the past, not treated as terrorism. Only difference this time is it was done for Palestine. And we'll continue to fight for Palestine. We can't say, we didn't do absolutely everything possible at this time to stop what is happening. And I think to truly be in solidarity means also taking the necessary risks